Hello everybody, I hope you're well. I'm Callum and today I'd like to make some modifications to this. It's a 17-year-old Samsung NC10 netbook. It's obviously missing its battery, but that's not the main issue of it. The main issue is that the CMOS battery on the inside is also dead, so that every single time when I switch it on it says error, checksum, date and time, blah blah blah, and I have to press F1 to bypass it, and then when I do the bypass, Windows doesn't boot properly, so I have to turn it off and then turn it back on, and it's really inconvenient. I only rely on this laptop 3 or 4 times a month, but I used it earlier today to flash a custom ROM on an old smartphone, and I thought, you know what, it can't be that hard to take this apart, solder in a standard CR2032 holder, and then that way the netbook will just work without giving me that annoying error every time. So without any further ado, I'm going to put the camera overhead and we're going to take this thing apart. Just before we get it taken apart, I thought I would show you the fault, so I'm going to take my lovely Samsung endorsed official charger that isn't 300 adapters plugged into an HP charger. Going to plug a charger into our laptop. Going to press the power button. So you see we've got a little blue light down here. Well, no we don't, now we do. And look at the error that comes up. Every time, press F1 to resume, system checksum bad, default config used, and so on. So if I hit F1 to resume, half the time Windows doesn't boot, so I'll hit start normally and it might actually boot okay this time, but usually it just gets stuck, look, on that black screen, and it's done exactly the same thing here. So I'm going to power it off, then I'll need to switch it back on, and you'll see that this time I don't need to hit F1 anymore, and for whatever reason Windows will just boot fine. Start normally. See what I mean? Windows 7 boots just okay. So now I'm going to get it taken apart. I've done this a number of times, it's really not a complicated process, you just basically take all of the screws out, pop the clips with a plastic spudging tool, and then it'll open. I'm going to leave the cover that's on the RAM door, it doesn't need to be tampered with, and this laptop is already maxed out at 2GB of DDR2. And furthermore, it only has a 32GB SSD inside. The reason is that's plenty of space to store Odin, XG Pro and Windows 7. And if you don't know what Odin is, it's a tool that lets you flash firmware on Samsung phones, and XG Pro is used to flash microcontrollers. Well, not microcontrollers, basically just ROM chips. So if I have a laptop, it boots but the caps lock light flashes and it doesn't quite work properly, I'll dump the BIOS, repair it, flash it back, and then oftentimes the laptop will start booting again. Don't forget to remove the little SD card blank, I'm just going to do that now, and then we'll be able to pry the back cover off. Notice, by the way, that there's audio jacks here, and then there's no audio jacks on this side. You always prise on the opposite side of the audio jacks because these are pushed through the housing. If you prise here, you're bending up on the motherboard. So I'm just going to pry on this side, and it really shouldn't be tough because I've taken this laptop apart many a time. It was completely free to me, by the way. I took the battery apart and tried to trickle charge it manually, but the battery didn't want to come back from the dead, and I tried then spending £20, which is more than the laptop is worth, on a new old stock battery, and unsurprisingly the replacement battery was completely dead as well. Ah, silly me, I've missed a screw. Yeah, there we go, like I said, it's coming apart quite easily now. So I just wiggle it kind of around. Bang on. And you can see the quality repair that I did there on this SSD just to keep it in place. I made a mountain of hot glue and called it a day. There we go then, the laptop's now dismantled. You can see the camera and the Bluetooth are disconnected. I don't need either of those things, so they stay unplugged. Internal mic, stereo speaker, ATH decoder, whatever the heck that means. We've got the Wi-Fi card here, which is a shorter one than default, and again I've just used my silly hot glue trick. To be honest, I don't even use this laptop on the internet, so I might just remove that. But I can't actually find the BIOS battery, and I'm really hoping it's not on the other side of the motherboard, but I kind of fear that it's going to be. Yep, unfortunately it is, so we need to get this motherboard taken out. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the screws, and you want to keep these things organised, because obviously if you lose a few of the screws it's not the end of the world, but at the same time you don't want a laptop that's going together with no screws inside it. So let's get this screw taken out as well. I don't think I've ever taken the motherboard out of this thing actually. So maybe the CMOS connector is actually somewhere nearby, I can't see it. I'll unplug the CPU fan, we'll unplug the screen, and if you do have a battery, make sure the battery is disconnected before you unplug the screen, otherwise you're in for a bad time. And I wonder how rubbish the webcam on this laptop is, because the webcams on these netbooks were never great. And there you are, you can see how well my hot glue bodge worked, so I'm going to get rid of that and just get rid of this Wi-Fi card. It's not needed. My only issue is I'm not going to be able to unplug the SSD, am I? Which could be problematic. So everything else is unplugged, including the CPU fan, and irritatingly, they run the these things screw through into the chassis as opposed to the back of the board. So that'll need to be removed as well. So I'll have to take the cooler off, in other words. Right, so let's get these taken out. Right, that should be that. And now the board should be free. Besides, obviously, my SSD, which I'm just going to break the bodge. It's fine. Can always re-glue it later. Not like the laptop really moves about. So I think that's free. It's not wanting to budge though, so instead of yanking on it and forcing it, I'm going to work out why. And it's because the keyboard is plugged in, so no, I really haven't taken this laptop apart before. I've just decided to flip the laptop over because I'm obviously going to need to remove the keyboard. So in order to do that on these models, it looks like there's just a couple of little tabs that get pried up. So that's what I'm going to try doing. Although obviously I don't want to pry the life out of this thing. But that is going to put me in a pretty good position, and we'll just do the third clip. See, even on a cheap rubbish netbook like this, back in the day you could replace the keyboard because we used to own what we bought back then. So I can't remember, well of course I can't remember, I'm not the one who originally bought it, but I don't quite know what these netbooks cost back in the day, but I know that inflation adjusted, it won't be any more than a standard cheap laptop these days, except these days we've lost loads of functionality and loads of repairability. So let me just wiggle this keyboard a bit and it'll come out. I will then unplug it, and I'm doing a terrible job here by the way, but that's unplugged. So let me put the keyboard out of the way, and then let's remove the body of the laptop from, well, the board. This is the CMOS battery then. You can see right here it says RTC on the motherboard, real-time clock. I'll pull away the Kapton tape, that's just to hold it in place during manufacturing. I'll gently peel this off of the board, and then I'll just unplug it. And oh god, I hate it when the manufacturers do that. They've put adhesive foam tape on top of these little sort of parts, and in some cases you end up ripping the parts off. In my box of spares I've actually found another one of these connectors that's already sort of had the battery removed. Only issue is, whilst it does fit, the wires are the wrong way around, so when I do my soldering I'm just going to make sure to pretty much flip the positive and the negative, and that's all I'll need to do. But as you can see then, I'm going to install the SSD here. Probably just going to 3D print something and glue it in place there. But then the SSD is going to be there, and the CMOS battery holder can just go here. So I should be able to run the wire, if I'm crafty, through like a gap here or something, and find a way to squeeze it under the board. In the end, I've decided it can go here, so we will fold the cable up and sort of hold it in place for a moment. And then after I've held it in place for a moment, it won't really move from where it was. And then I can just install the board into the case. And I'll just check to make sure the touchpad's still clicking, because that's the left and the right mouse buttons. And look at that board bending. Urgh, I don't like it. This goes here. We will get this, that screwed in. I'll plug the fan in. Just make sure I free the touchpad. Tighten it down. And if you're wondering why no screw goes here, it's because one's going to go through the bottom cover instead. Just so we know as well, hear the click, and listen here, hear that click, and this little circle is where a piece of the housing is going to sit, but this will fold just almost perfectly around here, and then BIOS battery holder can go there. I'll hot glue it in place, and we'll be sorted. In keeping with the spirit of things, I found some scrap wire in one of my boxes, so I'm just going to strip it back, 0.75mm, and I don't know if these strippers are even any good, we'll see. Right, well that's worked, and then I'll just put this in here again. So these things only cost a few pounds, I really don't... I mean, they haven't let me down yet actually. Obviously the quality's not amazing, but it's just done what I need it to do there. So the first thing to do is use wire cutters. I'm going to snip these spades off. And now that the spades are snipped off, I should be able to untwist them a bit and then strip them back. I've just turned my soldering station on, so obviously you know what that means. It's time to solder the wire. What I'm going to do is twist the copper like this, and I'm going to twist the same wires here just on the other side, And then I'll slide this further into frame, and I'm going to fold these two over on each other. And I'm not worried about heat shrink, so I can just put it on at the other side when I'm done. But these two will get folded over. The weight of this wire is going to hold it all in place, and then I'm going to come in with some nice lead-free solder, because I found lead-free solder that's genuinely really good. And I'll just basically marry these two together. So there you go, plenty of heat, really quality stuff. I'm going to set this back down, and hopefully without turning the iron off I can get the other side done as well. And it's stone cold, so I can do this. We'll go all the way, there you go. And we will do the same to the other one. And I'm going to put some black marks on this cable so that I know it's ground. Because obviously it's red here, but remember, the connector's flipped the wrong way around. So we'll just slide this down nice and far, and I'm going to just put a few black lines on here with a Sharpie. And it'd be a good idea to just cover that ribbon cable, so there we go, I'll do that. I'm not worried about deforming the housing of the laptop, I'm only applying the heat for a few seconds, and it's not directly on the housing anyway. And there's probably more professional ways to do this, but remember that this is a 17-year-old netbook. The only way to get better at things like this is to just actively practice them. That's what I'm doing here. This is the routing I've come up with for the wire, so that'll sit like that, just out of the way. This will run along here, just behind the RAM, and then I'm hoping that I can sort of cut these wires about here, solder ground, solder positive, and because hard drives are a lot thicker, this will just be free to, I mean, I might leave it floating about, I might use a few drops of glue, but either way, let's get this connector soldered onto here finally. So we know that this pin here is ground because the bottom of the battery is ground, and that touches the bottom of the battery, and I know that this wire is my ground wire because this is the one I've drawn the marks on. So if I just run these like this, and I'm holding my ground wire the entire time so I don't forget, I can then come to about here, place that down, and I know now that if I just put a mark in the sleeve, so I'm going to cut it about there, strip it, and then when it's stripped we'll be able to solder. So that's now done. I can just twist this up on itself, and I will aim to just put lots of solder on here, a blob of solder on there, and then just come along with the iron, touch, that's all I want to do. So my iron's now switched on at the same 370 degrees that it was at earlier. I'm just going to clean the tip of it off because it's all scabby, so let's just unravel plenty of solder. Just risk dumping it all over the board because I really don't care at this point. That's fine, plenty on there. We'll put solder on this bottom pin as promised. Nice and ratty, but I should just be able to hold this up here. Alright, a little bit fiddly, but that is, ooh, that's nice and hot as well. Yep, that's made a solder connection alright. If I was a smarter man I would have put the solder on here ahead of time, but well, I guess I didn't. Please don't land on my RAM, please don't land on my RAM. Right, come away gently. I'm even going to hold that wire, because if the wire pings it's game over. We'll fold this round, solder on the pin, plenty of solder on the pin, and this is going to get soldered something along. Oh god, this is always fiddlier with the second wire. Right, that's a really good connection as well, I'm very happy with that. This will now sit down here like this, and I'll just be able to wiggle it, squeeze it flat, maybe a drop or two of hot glue, and we will be away. Awesome. I've got my favourite tool in the world, which is hot glue. Hot air station set to 480, airflow is set to max. We don't need a lot of glue here. So I'm just going to put this out of the way, and don't be stingy with the glue, not that we need a lot of it. Right, I don't want to absolutely flood it, but I know that's exactly what I'm going to do because I can't help myself. So you just keep going and going and going, it's about to drip, and then bosh, that goes down like that. Plenty of it. Oh, no, I didn't want to drop it. No. Right. Make sure that's held in place as I want it to be. And that goes on there. You don't want so much that it squeezes through the bottom because then the battery won't sit down in the holder. But that is just a silly amount of hot glue. I normally use an entire stick on each project. This one's no different. But this laptop is officially ready to go back together. I've got this tool here, it's called a multimeter. You don't need to know exactly what it does, all you need to know is that it's going to tell me the voltage inside this coin cell battery I had that was spare. It's been sat on the side for a very long time. I can't remember where it came from. I don't know if it's dead, so why don't I just test? And it's got 3.096 volts, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to give that a few minutes to solidify, and then we'll put this cell in. Right, that's clicked in with no issues. I can't really test if the power is getting from the battery to the, to the motherboard, because, well, it's kind of glued in place. But yeah, I'm more than confident in this glue job. Look, I can lift the whole laptop with it. So yeah, there we go. Just need to put the bottom cover back on, and we are pretty much there. Here we are. So remember what I said earlier, the audio jacks, you'll just hook those in first. So 45-degree angle, hook those in, and cross my fingers this all clicks together as it should. I don't think we're going to have any issues with that at all. I love this little laptop though, it's been so unbelievably handy to me. I help run a non-profit called Recognition Circular. I've mentioned it in other videos. This was a machine that was donated by a business. So a business donated us a bunch of fairly good stuff, 2 worthless Dell brand tablets and this absolute heap of junk. And I mean, we were going to put it on the recycling heap, but at the last moment I was like, do you know what? I can take that home and I can start using it. I have use for a few bits of software that are Windows only. There's no good Linux alternatives available, or at least installing them is such a faff that pretty much it'd be easier to set this laptop up. And so yeah, here we are, using an ancient laptop that's got no value to anybody whatsoever. We're using it to do something very useful, I think, and it's going to be a lot handier to me, and it doesn't have that annoying error. Oh no, I've made a mistake. I've put a screw in down here that shouldn't have been there. Oh, that means this thing's got to come... it's got to come back apart. Ugh. I've skipped ahead a little, but I did want to show you the keyboard. So the way that these connectors work is that you open it 90 degrees, a bit like a book. So you see how that's clicked down into place? I'll just open. It's open like that, you don't open it any further. You then lie the keyboard down on its front, like this. I'm lying it down on its front. Fold the cable backwards, wiggle it into place, and then you'll hold it here with your thumb, close the connector back down, and then this just slides into the frame. At this point it's just a case of clicking the keyboard down. A few little tabs at the top if you remember. Requires a good amount of force to get them to engage, because remember this is a very old machine, you've been prizing at it and so on. But now I'm just going to close the lid, flip it over, 3 screws to the keyboard, 1, 2, 3, and it's job done. All I have to do now is switch the laptop on, go to the BIOS, set the date and time, we'll save the settings, we'll then unplug it, and if it remembers those settings then we're away. So F2 gets us into the BIOS, so date and time error, obviously that's what we're expecting, we're going to hit F2. I'm not going to do anything besides just change the date to 2025, we're just checking if this works. We're going to hit F10, we're going to save. When it switches itself back on, I'm going to switch it off. I'm going to unplug power, so now there's nothing powering this laptop. I'm going to plug power back in, and it should remember the date that I've set. So fingers crossed, I shouldn't get an error for a start. And if I oh yeah, look at that, that's booted straight away, so you can tell right away. So Control Alt Delete reboots, by the way. But Control Alt Delete reboot, and I'm going to press F2. Keep pressing, we're into the BIOS, we'll go here, and bam, look at that, 2025. That's exactly the outcome I was hoping for. I've got to say I'm really happy with this little mod. It's really small, but it's made a huge difference. So I've alarmed this laptop for a tool called Rufus, which lets you create bootable USBs. Now I know there's a tool called Ventoy, but trust me, Windows is the best platform for creating bootable USBs, it just is. We'll use XG Pro, which, like I say, I use for programming microcontrollers. I don't have the programmer plugged in, so it's not going to find it, but this software is really useful. Then the final one, if I go to my documents, is a tool called Odin. And like I say, you use this with Samsung smartphones. Now, the screen on this laptop is so small and so low resolution that I had to put the taskbar on the left just so I could access the start button and whatnot, because it doesn't scale properly. But I don't mind that workaround, it means I can carry on using the machine. And honestly, it does everything I need it to do. There's no reason to have a machine that's more powerful. It's tiny and it's lightweight, so I just squeeze it in a corner when I'm not using it. Anyway though, that's pretty much all there is to it, so I'm going to shut it down, I'm going to unplug it, and then in 3 weeks time, I'll be pleased to make this mod when I go to use it again. I've used this laptop a few times since filming, and I've got to say, it's really handy to just have it switch on and boot up. No longer do I need to hit F1, go to the BIOS, change the date, or hit escape and turn it off and turn it back on, and it just works now. Really nice. This mod didn't actually take all that long to film and to actually do in the real world. Of course, there's better ways to spend your time, but as I said in the video, it's good for learning, and it's nice to keep this old stuff out of landfill if we can. I was also able to take the Bluetooth module from the laptop. I've soldered a micro USB port to it, and now I can use it externally. There'll be a video coming out covering that soon. But if you found the video useful, possibly even enjoyed it, imagine that, then consider leaving a like on the thing. That would really help. Otherwise, if you want to see more, see where the channel ends up going, see just how far we get this silly little repair message spread, then feel free to hit the subscribe button. That's all I've got for you today though, so until next time, I'll see you later. Take care for now, and goodbye.